now. Hey, I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Welcome. In this session, I'm going to walk you through prospecting. Yes, we've been named one of the top 10 online learning platforms in the world. Honor to have that. And I'll tell you what we're going to be digging into here today is all about prospecting. Now, this is a 4-part series, and it really dovetails into the online program that we're launching right now on prospecting. And prospecting, building the plan and making it happen. That's the name of the online program. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some pieces from that to help you really understand what does it mean to have a prospecting process? What does it do? Hey, if you're interested in the program, in the online program, I do encourage you to jump out to the website, university, up at the top, click on it. And more importantly, what I really suggest is that you get the all access pass. The all access pass. Why? Because that gets you everything. That gets you all the online learning, but more importantly, it gets you open office hours with me. So with that, let's jump into the program. When we talk about prospecting, I want you to stop and I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you a rain barrel or a rainmaker? Now, over the next 3 Thursdays at the exact same time, I'm going to be digging down into more parts. So by the time we get through, you're going to have a nice piece. But I do encourage you to get the online program that really takes it much deeper with the workbook and everything. Rain barrel, rainmaker. What is this all about? Here's what I want you to ask yourself. How much of your business is coming in? How much of your business are you creating? This morning, I was coaching an individual. It was a regular coaching call I had with a person. And she was sharing with me a piece of business in a significant piece of business in a new country that she was able to get. And she got that purely because of a rainmaker. See, that's what sales is all about. Sales is about being a rainmaker. Now, to be a rainmaker, to get this individual to where she had to go through and really develop a sales process, but she did. Let's walk through what does it take right now. And I'm going to do this in about 30 minutes or less. And I want you to first ask yourself this question. Are you converting or educating? Now, this makes a big difference from a prospecting perspective. Let me explain this. Converting. This means the customer is using a similar type of product to what you have, similar type of service, but they're getting it from somebody else. So in other words, they're familiar with some of the outcomes that you're going to be able to help them achieve. That's converting. Or are you educating? In other words, this is a new service. This is a new product. They're not familiar with it. They really, you're going to have to take them all the way through. Now, what does this mean? If it's converting, your frequency, your cadence is going to be much shorter. Your messaging is going to be different because you don't have to educate them. If it's educating, your messaging is going to be over a longer period of time. You're going to have to really help educate them along the way so that they understand. So what happens is you're going to create value longer. It's going to take longer to get value. Which one is better? There really is no. I mean, you can create processes around each one, but you've got to understand. The other piece yet you really have to understand is, do you know who your perfect customer is? Now, when we say, do you know who your perfect customer is, I talk about ICP, Ideal Customer Profile. In fact, I've got an upcoming masterclass that'll be out in a few months where I'll be talking just solely about, it's really about 28 different criteria to help you determine the ICP, but that'll be coming out probably July or August. But do you know who your customer is? Let's do it from a top line perspective. You have to understand significantly. Now, the best way to understand who your customer is by looking at them. Okay. You take a piece of paper and you write down all of your customers and you begin to say, hey, who are these people? You see, what you'll find is there may be differences in terms of positions, differences in terms of levels. What do I mean by this? If what you sell is a conversion, okay, in other words, you're just converting somebody over, and it's a lower level person, you can be reaching out to them quite frequently. If they're a lower level person and they're buying almost on a daily basis, you can almost be reaching out to them daily. For instance, temporary labor, temporary staffing. That's a hot market right now. Okay. And because many HR people are having to buy temporary labor on a daily basis, you can be reaching out to them almost daily. Conversely, you might be talking to CEOs, and what you sell is more educational. And what does that mean? That means you can't message them daily. You can't even message them weekly. but it's going to be every other week. It might be monthly, and it might be over the course of 6 months, 9 months, a year. You see, you have to understand who is your perfect customer. And you want to ask yourself, when do they buy? Another lady I coach, she is selling services that have an absolute renewal date. So it's conversion. It's conversion. So naturally, she puts all of her prospecting efforts around that conversion window, starting about 90 days out from that conversion window. That's when she really heavies up. Do you know who your perfect prospect is? Also, in terms of what are the outcomes you're helping customers achieve? You see, what I find very interesting is knowing who your perfect customer is and then knowing what the outcomes are. This very much helps us in terms of really going to where we need to go. Now, take this piece of paper that I said where you wrote down your customers on one side. On the right-hand side, I want you to write down the outcomes you helped them with. Because now the outcomes are going to help you in terms of crafting your messaging. See, what happens many times is salespeople fail to realize that their messaging must be targeted. I was doing a session earlier today for another company, and we were talking about this and the need to be absolutely spot on. Let me give you an example. Working with a company that I do quite a bit of work with, and I was helping one of their salespeople craft a campaign that actually went out earlier this week. It put the campaign out to about 500 past customers, but it was very hyper targeted. And these were 500 past customers that really we've just kind of lost base with. But it was a hyper focused email, and there's a 4 email strategy. Now for this one, we only chose four emails. 4 emails just in the first one, but he's already got 8 meetings set up based off of what this first email did. And it's hyper-focused based on the outcomes that he knows he can deliver. And it's only going to people who is your perfect customer, because these are his existing customers. Now, the reason I share this story is this. Many times when we look at prospecting, we think of prospecting as only going after new people. There's a tremendous amount of business that you can obtain by going after customers that have just lost sight of you. They may have stopped buying from you. You want to be zeroed in on. I call this the land and expand strategy. You land a customer and then you build on it. You expand on it. But what I find happening too often is that salespeople are quick to land a customer and then they move on and they never come back and really get the full value out of it. See, prospecting is all about making sure that the first sale you get is not the last sale. That's what good prospecting is all. That's how you really create value. So you've now got the outcomes. Now, when you get all these outcomes put together, stop and think about this. You can begin to see a pattern. You look at this list here and you go, okay, hey, these are certain types of people in certain industries, and I see where these outcomes are all the same. Over here is another industry and those outcomes are the same. And again, the more hyper-focused you can be on the outcomes, the more you can really understand their needs. Because here's the whole thing. Remember, when you're prospecting, you're not the only one prospecting. At best, other salespeople are trying to prospect these same people using a general message. But you're going to be more successful because you're hyper-focused. You've got to get absolutely tailored. Now, if I were able to show you the emails that we put together for this other salesperson I said I was working with in their company, you'd be shocked at how specific they are. They are very specific. Now, we know that sending those out to about 500 different companies, that it's not going to trip the trigger at all 500. We know that. So after we get through this 4 drip, we'll then take the people that we're now talking to again, we'll take them out of the list, and maybe we'll be down to 470. And we'll repeat the process with a different message. And maybe we'll pull out another 30 or 40. And we keep repeating it. Now, here's the whole thing, though. We're not doing this, and this is one of the whole things that when we laid out the campaign, I said, you may be sending this to 500, but you got to make sure that you can back this up with telephone. You have to make sure you can back this up, because email alone is not enough from a prospecting standpoint. So that's what we did. We spread this out and and he's backing it up with telephone. and literally cleared the deck, so to speak. So this is all he's focusing on. Now, what does that allow us to do? It allows us to be very, very focused. So what have we learned so far? We've learned this. A, are you converting or educating? 2, who's your perfect customer? 3, what are the outcomes you create? And again, you begin to get those questions answered, and you're going to find yourself spending, wow, a lot less time with bad prospects, but it gets better. Okay, now what are the questions, statements to get people to connect? Okay, so now what you do is you take your outcome list and you begin to say, okay, what are some of the questions, what are the statements that would get prospective people thinking about these outcomes? What are the prospective statements? And what you got to do is you got to do this. You got to stay tight in terms of making it timely, personal, and industry focused. Now I'm talking B2B here, okay? Now let's break this down. Timely. It's not, hey, you better respond by 12 midnight or I'm never going to hear from you again. No, it's timely in terms of what's happening right now. Right now in business, it is noisy and it is very, very much on fire. And what does this mean? This means customers only have the ability to deal with their number 1 or number 2 priority. So I've got to make sure that I deliver a message that hits home on that number 1 or number 2 priority. And the number 1 or number 2 priority might be, hey, you need my service because this is going to allow you to be able to do X, X, X a lot faster. See, personal. If I can tie this back to either a connection I have with you, or if I can tie this back in some way that it's relative to you and your position, it brings in more value. As a CFO of companies, they have different needs than, say, an IT manager. And industry. What can I tie in on the industry? Now, you might say personal and industry is the same thing. Nah, it's not. It's different. But I want you thinking about it. But what I want you doing is I want you to be crafting. What are 10 questions? What are 10 statements? So what have you done so far? You've listed customers, you've listed the outcomes, and you've now begun to bucketize them. And now you're beginning to create statements, questions. And you're trying to make them as timely as possible. Now, why are you trying to make them as timely as possible? Because again, urgency rules the day. I had somebody who sent me an email the other day, and I actually happened to read it. It was from a salesperson. I happened to read it, and it really the product they were selling, very, very interested. And my company could benefit from it. There's no doubt my company could benefit from it. There was no doubt. But I had to delete it. Here's why. Because it wasn't hitting my number 1 or number 2 priorities. And in my business, we have to stay hyper focused. Think about that. You have to stay hyper focused. And if you don't stay hyper focused, you're going to lose the train. Because the train's just going to go right past you and you're not going to get on it. Stop and think about this for a moment. Stop and think. See. This is where you have to begin really asking yourself, how tight can you be? How tight? And this means that the email campaign, the telephone campaign, however you do it, follows the same sequence. Yeah, see, what's interesting is the question statements. These you can use on the telephone. These you can use on a Zoom call. These you can use in an email. These you can use. What I found is this. When I've taken the time to develop questions and statements, and it's minimally 10 questions and 10 statements, minimally, around each ICP segment I have, it increases my level of confidence. Because now I can go into any meeting and I know that I can have a conversation. I know that I can put together emails. I know I can do this. So now, what should our cadence look like? What's your cadence? Now, this is absolutely critical. And there's 2 pieces that I want to drive home with you on this. 1, don't start what you can't finish. I pushed back on this salesperson I was telling you about earlier because he wanted to send this email out to 500. I really only wanted him to do 100. because again, it's going to be really hard for him to follow up from a telephone standpoint. But management overruled. They wanted all 500. That's a battle I got to fight on another day. You see, here's the whole thing. Don't start what you can't finish. It's easy to throw out an initial blast. That's easy. Anybody can do that. But you have to be able to follow up, which means you have to follow the principle that is found in your shower. I've talked about this before. You've heard me talk about this, and that is rinse and repeat. It's found on every bottle of shampoo. That's why I say in your shower. Look at a bottle of shampoo. It'll say rinse and repeat. Now, rinse and repeat does not say it's the same message coming back. No. Rinse. When you rinse your hair, you don't put that old shampoo back in your hair. You get new shampoo and you repeat the process. You see, your cadence has to be built out where every message you're doing is different. Now, does this mean every email and every phone call and they can be a little bit similar, but I still want differences. Because if I send you an email and then I leave you a voicemail, the exact same thing, you're going to say, well, why'd you send me the email? Why'd you send me the voicemail? Just send me one or the other. If I sit here and I send out an email and then I send out another email and said, hey, you didn't respond to me. I'm sending it to you again. You're an idiot. You are an idiot. In the master class, in the prospecting master class, if you buy the master class, I have in there a whole series of stupid words that you don't use. That's one of them. You don't sit there and send out the same email twice. That's lazy. That's being absolutely lazy. You send out a different message. They saw your email. They just chose not to respond to it, okay? Because it was stupid. So don't sit there and be really stupid by sending that same email out a second time. That's really stupid. Every message you send out must be different. Now, I can have the same theme, but I'm going to word it differently. I may be able to send you a message in an email, and I may take the same theme but word it differently in a voicemail I leave with you. I may even, if I'm connected with you and have earned social credibility, send it to you on LinkedIn, but only if I've earned social credibility. That's a topic for a whole nother day. Just this last week alone, I have received 4 emails worded identical. Somebody is preaching this. And the in-message, LinkedIn messages I'm getting say, hey, I noticed you're looking for new opportunities. Let me share with you some great opportunities in franchising. I've gotten 4 of those. Now, let me tell you something. You look at my profile, I'm not looking for another opportunity. And oh, by the way, these people I'm not connected with. They're all like 3rd-level connections. So you built no social credibility, and now you're trying to pitch me? Forget it. In fact, with each one of them, I sent them back a note. I said, hey, I'm researching a new book I'm writing on prospecting, because I've written several other books on prospecting, and I'd love to get some feedback from you. How many of these identical messages do you send out a day? And what's the percent that you actually get responded to and turn into customers? I haven't received a response from any one of the 4. They're just blanketing these messages out there. You see, again, it comes back to got to have the right message to the right person at the right time. This is all part of the cadence. So what does the cadence look like? Your cadence is going to look like probably 15 to 20 contacts. Go back to that salesperson I was telling you about earlier. We put together 4 emails. 4 emails around one hyper-focused opportunity, problem. And then we're going to put together 4 more around the next one, and 4 more around the next one. We're going to do 4. So we're going to do 16 touches. Now, I'm a little bit concerned on this one. The only reason this is going to work is because this company is quite large, and there are other people there that are communicating with them. So we know their emails are going to go through. Because I don't like emailing people too many times without having them respond, because then what happens is the spam folder begins picking it up, right? Yeah. But this is why I'm saying I got to go email, phone call, email, social media, email, phone call. I always go back and forth. Now, I'm working on another prospecting. I'm working on another masterclass In fact, I just got done completing the workbook on it on email prospecting. That'll be coming out next month. I've got another master class coming out on just telephone prospecting. I'm breaking each one of these steps down individually to give you all of the tools. This content is from my masterclass on prospecting. And again, you can go out to my website, university, get it. And more importantly, get the all access pass, because that gets you open office hours where I can work with you. These people I was telling you about that I'm coaching, yeah, because they're part of the all access. Yeah. Okay, so your cadence. I'm going to lay this cadence out also in terms of timing. Now, go back to my example earlier. I mentioned the example about the temporary labor. And if you're selling temporary labor, it's hot right now. I can have a cadence where it's literally every other day or every third day at the most. We'll say it's every third day. And I can do that for 15 to 20 times over the course of about 2 months. However, if I'm doing that same cadence to, we'll say, CFOs of smaller companies, it might be every other week for 30 weeks. I'm going to always tend to go 15 to 20 times. I want to have 15 to 20. And I'm generally going to go email, phone call, email, phone call, email, phone call. Now, some people are saying, Mark, should I just send out 3 or 4 emails first before I call them? I go, okay, it's going to vary upon the industry. It's going to vary upon the level of person you're dealing with. There's a lot of criteria that come into play. And some of it is you just got to get out there and start doing it. You just have to. There is no magic, perfect formula for every industry. It's why also in terms of your cadence, people say, well, I should only be sending out emails on Tuesdays between 10 and 2. Get over that one, okay? Get over that one. Just send the email out. Now, there are some windows that are maybe a little bit better, a little bit worse. I totally get that. But here's what I tell people. If you sit here and wait for the perfect time, you will never, ever send it. Hello, Patrick. Good to hear from you. Good to see you. I'm glad you're checking it out, and hopefully you're taking some notes and maybe picking up some ideas. Great to hear from you. Now, here's the whole piece. You got to stop and ask yourself this simple question. What is going to be the trip point? What's going to be the trigger point? The trigger point is generally about message 8 or 9. If I'm doing a 15 to 20 step cadence, I generally don't start seeing responses till I get to about 8 or 9. And again, this comes back to this whole thing that I see too many people start a prospecting program and then they stop. They stop. Do not stop. Because if you stop, then you got to come all the way back to square one. It was very interesting. Warren Buffett shared a comment the other day I read, and he made this comment. He said, focus trumps intelligence. You see, you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're not focused, you're not going to get anything. This is why I say I got to be very focused on my cadence. Once I start the cadence, I do not stop. I don't stop. Let's get on to the next question. Goals, expectations. What should they be? Set them low. Set them low. Whoa, what do you mean? Here's the whole thing. It is too easy to start a prospecting cadence and to say, I'm going to convert 30%, 40% of these people. And you'll get 2 weeks into it and you'll become disappointed. Wrong. Set your goals and expectations low enough. Your goals and expectations are really around just, hey, how many people read the email? How many conversations am I having? Set your goals low enough in your expectations. Remember, prospecting, unless what you sell is pencils, your next step is really just to get the next step, right? So you send out prospecting emails and your goal is just to get a conversation. You may be making phone calls and you're interrupting people so they don't I'm sorry. I was on mute there. I was on mute there for about a minute. My apologies. Check the mute. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize. Let me back up here for just a second. Goals and expectations. This is going to sound crazy, but you set them low enough that you know you can get over the hump. I apologize on being low. Wow. Thank you. Boy, people are responding quickly on this. I love it. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me now. I'm sure you can. So that's good. And what this means is this very simple piece. Okay, good. It is working. Is having the right mindset. Now, for instance, right there, having the right mindset. Think about that. I didn't get flustered. It's okay. I got the problem fixed and we move on. You're going to incur problems. You're going to call people and they're going to come unglued with you. You have no idea what happened in their life before you called them. I equate when you're prospecting and somebody comes unglued at you. You just happen to be traveling through an intersection at the wrong time when somebody proceeded through the intersection the other way and hit you. It's on. That's it. It wasn't that you're doing anything wrong. No. In fact, you're in the right. You're in the right. You know you can help them. They just, unfortunately, you see, do not ever allow a single conversation to disrupt your day. People sit there and say, Mark, I make all these calls and I don't get a response. You do get a response. But it's just like billboards on the side of the highway. Do they still have billboards? Think about signs. Is every sign going to turn into a sale? No, not necessarily. When you see an ad for Coca-Cola or an ad for Ford, do you immediately run out and buy a car? No. It takes hundreds of ads, and it turns into sales. This is the same way with prospecting. Your mindset has to be focused on long term. Your mindset has to be focused on your cadence and the duration. And two quick things I want you to do from a mindset. Okay? At the end of every day, look back and think about the most successful thing you did. The most successful thing may have been just a phone call that went right. Great, write it down. Always end the day thinking about a success. And then set your plan for what you are going to choose to have as your outcome the next day. And what I find is this: when I end the day on just a successful note by thinking back on something positive, it begins to frame my mind up better for the outcome I'm going to achieve the next day. And when I come into prospect the next day, and I do this, I block my time. And we'll get into this in a future session. Now, what we've been doing here is I've been sharing with you a number of elements from my masterclass all on prospecting. Because here's what I believe. Sales is not a job. It's not a profession. Sales is a lifestyle built on helping others see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. That's what it is. Now, I'm going to encourage you. Hey, and if you can't jump out and get that, email me, Mark at the Sales Center. I'll happy to set you up in the masterclass. It's $59. This is what every masterclass is, but I really want you to grab the all access. This is what the university page looks like. All access pass gets you all of the open office hours. And I do these 2 times a month, 2 hours. And people find that incredibly beneficial. Hey, I want to keep these to half an hour. My name is Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and we've been talking about content from the Sales Hunter University program. And we're pleased this year to have been named one of the top 10 online sales programs. Hey, thank you so much. Great selling.